Welcome back to the Sunny Stampin' Studio. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this shimmery winter-themed thank you card. Why don't we get started? First thing you're going to need is a piece of real red cardstock. It was 5.5 by 8.5, folded in half to create a 4.25 by 5.5 inch card. You're going to need an embossing buddy, which is simply a static remover, which you want to run along the bottom of the card. I'm now going to grab my Versamark ink pad and my snowflake from the Pattern Pines Level 1 Hostess set. You really could use any snowflake for this. You're going to ink your snowflake up in the Versamark, and you're going to stamp it a few times onto your card base. Now, as you can see, Versamark is a watermark ink, so you get an image that's just a shade darker than the color of the cardstock. So now that you've done that, you want to grab yourself some heat and stick powder. So you can see I keep my powder, this heat and stick powder and all my embossing powders and glitters in containers. I just find it easier to work with that way and less messy. So you now want to sprinkle this heat and stick powder over each of your snowflakes. Once you've done that, you just want to flip your card over and make sure that you tap off any excess, like so. Once you've done that, you're going to grab your heat tool and you're going to heat the snowflakes until they melt. Now I'm going to zoom in the camera and show you what it looks like so that you can see what it looks like as it melts. It is going to be kind of loud though, because you are going to hear the heat tool. As you can see, it melts very quickly. It's actually much faster than if you were working with regular embossing powder. So I'm now going to take my gold glitter, and this is glitter that's from the Fine Galaxy collection. And I'm going to sprinkle some onto each of the areas where I have heat and stick powder. Now you will notice as I'm doing this that quite a lot of glitter ends up around the snowflake as well. Don't worry too much about that, because after we have set the heat and stick, we're then going to go back and brush off the extra glitter. So in the meantime, as you're doing this, just make sure that you tap off as much of the glitter as you possibly can. Whatever you do when you're working with glitter, don't blow. So you can see now that I do have quite a bit of glitter all around, but it's not going to stick there, so don't worry about that. So you now need to give this another hot shot of heat with your heat tool so that the glitter sets in the heat and stick powder. Now you don't really see the heat and stick powder. Oh, sorry about that. That was a bit quick. You don't really see much as when you're reheating the heat and stick powder and the glitter. You just almost see like a faint movement across the snowflake, but you don't really, you have to watch very carefully. So you just make sure you don't overheat it when you're doing this. As you can see, now that the glitter is set to the heat and stick powder, I can take a brush, and this is one of Stampin' Up's old stipple brushes, and I'm just brushing off the excess into my glitter container. You can now go ahead and set that aside, and you just want to clean your surface there of any extra glitter. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my Whisper white cardstock. This is 3 inches by 4 inches. I'm going to grab my Stamp-A-Majig, my snail, and I need my soft suede ink pad. And I also want my stamp from Heard from the Heart. I'm going to take my snail adhesive and I'm going to put a small amount on the bottom just to keep this from shifting as I'm stamping. You now want to take your imaging sheet and you want to align it closer to the top of the Whisper White. We're going to be sticking on afterwards a piece of designer paper, so you just want to make sure, and there's going to be ribbon, so you just want to make sure it's high enough that it's not going to overlap that. So I'm just using a line on my grid paper to help me visualize where this is going to be. Whoops, I just shifted that a little bit. When you're working with pieces of cardstock that are smaller than the size of the Stampin' Majig, so the Stampin' Majig is overhanging, and smaller than the size of the template, you just have to make sure that you really hold it in place carefully because it does have a tendency to shift. So I'm now inking up my stamp in the soft suede ink, and then I'm carefully pressing, and then you lift straight up. Once you've done that, you can grab your snail adhesive, and you want a piece of designer paper. This is from the Christmas Cocoa collection, and it is 1.5 inches by 4 inches. So as you can see, my cardstock is 3 inches by 4 inches, so it just fits, and you're going to stick it along the bottom. Now I actually stuck it just a teeny little bit crooked, so I just want to adjust that carefully, like so. You're then going to take a piece of real red cardstock, and you want to cut it so that it's just a little bit bigger than the size of the Whisper White cardstock piece. So I'm going to flip this over and place the snail adhesive on both sides. And then you just want to wrap the ends around the side like so, so that they're stuck to the back. Now you need to grab yourself a corner rounder, and this is Stampin' Up's 3/16 of an inch corner rounder, and you're just going to round the top 2 corners like so. Now next thing we need to do is to put on the buttons. As you can see, I now have my 3 buttons. These are all from Stampin' Up's Playground Designer Button Collection. I have 2 reds and 1 of the mustards. I've already gone ahead and threaded each button with a sliver of cardstock, and I've shown you how to do that in previous videos and as well as on my blog. So now all I'm going to do is take each of these buttons. I'm going to pick up a mini glue dot. So I'm just sticking the button to the mini glue dot, and then I'm going to stick these onto my designer paper. I'm now ready to center and stick this to my card front. So to do so, in order to give it a little bit of dimension, I'm going to use my Stampin' Dimensionals. So I'm placing 1 in each corner, and then I want to put 1 in the center just to give it a little bit of extra support there. So peel off the backing from your dimensionals, and then you can just go ahead and center this in your card. Now I've lined up my card with the lines in my grid paper, and I'm just visually centering this. Once you're happy with the placement, you then go ahead and press it down. And that's all there is to it. You're done your card. Well, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I look forward to stamping with you again.